It seems that Letizia is coming to the end of her time at the helm of the institution, in stark contrast to the past, when Juan Carlos I was treated like an outcast and was forced to step aside, akin to the story of Cinderella. He had to leave royal events before midnight and fly out of Madrid, unable even to stay overnight in Spain. This recent visit of the former king has not been as fleeting as it used to be just a few months ago in 2023. It has been evident that Juan Carlos I was not welcome at Zarzuela. In fact, there were rumors of tension between Felipe and Juan Carlos, especially in recent months, such as when we saw the complicity and trust between father and son at Windsor during the Mass in honor of Constantine of Greece. The situation has undergone a drastic change, and several digital media outlets are echoing it. It seems that separation, the end of cohabitation, and even an imminent divorce by the king and queen are on the horizon. Some news outlets are titling it quite hostilely, such as Leonor and Sofía participate in Letizia's biggest humiliation in 4 years. It's striking that Juan Carlos buffer, something that had never been allowed before, and which I personally find distasteful, has shared a table with his granddaughters. It is said that the situation with Jaime del Burgo has marked a turning point, damaging Letizia's public image and generating negative repercussions in her relationship with her daughters. The lack of support from the latter has been especially painful, as now everyone is on the side of Felipe VI, but also attention on the side of his grandfather, Juan Carlos Barón, with whom they have barely had a relationship in recent times. It is true that Leonor already showed some closeness to her grandfather during the swearing in of the Constitution and the subsequent private party at El Pardo, calling him Majesty. This gesture suggests sympathy towards her grandfather, despite what her mother may have instilled. It seems that things are quite the opposite of what they appear. In the last hours and days, a meeting has taken place at Zarzuela that is notably novel, considering that until recently, Juan Carlos I could not visit his former residence. Furthermore, the presence of his granddaughters adds an obvious and relevant element. It is speculated that the loss of influence and support in the royal family has left the Queen in a vulnerable position. Some go further and describe her as a monarchical corpse, suggesting that Letizia has lost relevance within the institution. Despite efforts to maintain an impeccable image, it is noticeable that her influence has diminished, something that has been evident towards the end of 2023 and the beginning of 2024. It seems that Letizia fails to convince, and her future in the royal house and in the royal family is in doubt. According to reports, Juan Carlos has shared a table with his granddaughters after the wedding celebrated by Almeida. The recent meal at Zarzuela has highlighted the difficult situation facing the monarchy, especially the marriage of their Majesties King Juan Carlos, Felipe VI, Princess Leonor, and Infanta Sofía. Notably, Letizia was not present on this occasion. This meeting has been significant, as until recently, it seemed that 20 authorizations were needed for Juan Carlos to spend time with his family. His presence at Zarzuela with his granddaughters marks a milestone, as it was not common for him to be present in this context. Additionally, when Juan Carlos attended a mass in Windsor, their Majesties the Kings were present, but none of their daughters attended, which also generated controversy at the time. Juan Carlos was since present at the Zarzuela Palace, as if nothing had happened, according to El Nacional de Catalunya, strongly contrasts with Letizia's previous attempts to keep him away for years. This gesture exposes the loss of power, influence of the consort, whose image has been severely affected by recent events caused more than anything, they say, because of Jaime del Burgo. The temporary cessation of cohabitation between Felipe VI and Letizia has harmed this situation, further weakening the Queen's role in the royal house. Meanwhile, Juan Carlos's return to Spain and his meeting with the king and his granddaughters suggest a shift in the balance of power within the royal family. I believe we all absolutely agree with these words from El Nacional, which sometimes go too far, which sometimes exaggerate the information, but in this case, I believe they accurately describe what is happening. I insist there is more news than telling us that Freen goes to an after-party after a wedding, and I believe that this is the type of news that people in Spain deserve to know and understand. The reality is that the turmoil within the monarchy is making Letizia increasingly isolated, increasingly vulnerable, and facing, they also say, the challenge of maintaining her position because what she has always sold us, and Jaime Peñafiel has said it for example, is that Letizia's only love is power. She does not love her family, so to speak. She does not love Felipe VI. She does not love her husband, but she loves power, control, and that fame of being one of the most influential people or women. I believe that's the way things are going, because otherwise I don't think anyone would cling to the chair in this humiliating way, because they have always, more or less, maintained their desires for Juan Carlos to be kept away, even wanted to retire Doña Sofía this year, and it has not happened. Doña the Emeritus Queen, I always say, is for me the most valuable piece of the Spanish monarchy, and when it seemed that they wanted to get rid of her because Letizia said that the daughters had to displace the grandmother, we have found that the one who ends up being displaced is neither the grandmother nor the granddaughters, but the queen consort herself, a situation that logically marks a before and after within the monarchy. In fact, little is known about that meal, that dinner that Juan Carlos I, Felipe VI, and the granddaughters had, but it is known that the humiliation has been truly tremendous. It seems that among Juan Carlos I's intentions and plans was to execute this, I don't know if Machiavellian plan. I believe there are no bad intentions in a father meeting his son and his grandchildren, but it is noticeable that it has been planned with great intelligence, because taking advantage of the wedding of José Luis Martínez Almeida and Teresa Urquijo, this visit has lasted much longer than expected. And it is by no means common or normal for something to be forged within the 4 walls or the 20 walls or the 200 walls of the Zarzuela Palace. That is by no means common. And it is increasingly reported by more sources that this is said to be a way of showing that indeed Juan Carlos Bapurrer is helping to untangle a complicated situation. We already know that Juan Carlos I had also a fundamental role in the divorce with Niña Urdangarin, even signing the clauses for her, and he is even the one who would be paying her a quite substantial millionaire annual amount. And in this case, they say that it is possible, this media says, they say it is possible that the former king has spoken with Felipe VI in a more personal way, giving him advice on what to do due to his position as a former king. They say that in any case, this meal at Zarzuela signifies Juan Carlos's entrance, and perhaps those pieces of advice on family relationships within the royal house. In other words, that Juan Carlos Bapurrer would also be the one advising his son on how to carry out, how to manage, and how to move forward with a compromised and delicate situation. Because monarchies are very modern, they are becoming increasingly modern, but there are some codes that should not be crossed, such as having a divorced king. In this case, as I say, the cessation of cohabitation seems to be the most plausible route to take. And in this sense, we see how Juan Carlos Bapurrer is becoming stronger within Zarzuela, within the monarchy. And it is evident, this media says, that the situation, the cessation of cohabitation, even divorce, is just around the corner. The big question is whether Juan Carlos Bapurrer, seeing how things are developing, is about to return to our country or not. That remains, as I say, the big question and the big unknown.